This might be the only eyeshadow palette I've purchased in 2024. It has not been a year for eyeshadow, but this is definitely the exception, and I am so excited about this. I have the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes Moonlight Palette, and the second I saw this, I knew I wanted it. Really excited that this has come out right before the Sephora sale. I'm working on that review video next, so look for my recommendations. I'm gonna publish it, I think, a couple of days before the actual Sephora sale goes live. You may notice my lighting setup is a little bit different. I had to break out the lights because the days are getting shorter and the sun is less reliable. You know I like natural light, but actually I think this kind of lighting is really helpful for eyeshadow reviews. I've been loving the Makeup by Mario Neutrals palette that came out earlier this year. This was sent to me in PR. I purchased this myself. In terms of the mattes, there are a lot of similar cool toned, sandy, neutral nudes. They both have a dark gray and a black. They have some light nudes, but obviously the shimmers are what sets this apart, and I really regretted missing out on the first Ethereal Eyes palette, that like pinky color story. I have been really curious to try this formula, so I'm actually coming like new to this formula. If you're new here, then hi, my name is Bekah. I haven't done an eyeshadow review in a while, but I am really excited and I like to be thorough in these dedicated reviews, so I'm going to have the reviews sort of time-stamped in terms of swatches, different eye looks, different sections of the review, so look for that in the description box. So like all of my eyeshadow palette reviews, I think I'm gonna do 4 to 5 different eye looks. We'll see how it goes, just so I can show you the versatility of the palette. I will have my other makeup details linked in the description box just because I have all my makeup on except for eyes. So this palette is limited edition. It's $68, which is just the way eyeshadow palettes go these days. But it is the kind of palette that I feel like has so much versatility. You can get an everyday eye look out of this, as well as, you know, more dramatic, smoky, sort of like 90s supermodel eye looks, cat eye looks, all of that, which we'll get into. In my experience, Makeup by Mario eyeshadows kind of go against the grain of what is popular in eyeshadow formulas. It's kind of like the anti-Natasha Denona, the anti-Anastasia, like those really creamy, dense shadows. This is the opposite of that. They're not creamy and dense. They're actually quite dry and firmly packed, but I feel like that makes blending so easy and it creates a really smooth look. And if you're not someone that's an expert in laying down eyeshadow and creating like really intense eye looks, this actually kind of makes it easier to use. I'll talk more about each formula, but let me first swatch this for you. Here's a close look at the palette, and here is a look at the swatches. I know it's not my best swatch work, but I feel like this is the type of palette that performs differently on the eyes than it swatches. Like thick, creamy eyeshadows swatch better because there's a lot of binder in the formula, but they can be harder to work with on the eyes because you set it down and then it sort of like gets stuck and you have to blend it out really hard, whereas these start more sheer, but they build up more easily. So I feel like you can tell in the swatches, like my arm is not a flat surface, so the mattes don't look maybe as impressive as a Natasha Denona creamy, like almost cream to powder matte. These are firmly pressed, drier powders, but we have to talk about the shimmers. There are interestingly 2 sort of shimmery formulas. There are the actual topper shades. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4 shades are very much toppers in the sense that they don't have a lot of base pigment. Even though this, for example, looks taupey and slightly deeper in the pan, it actually swatches out very sheer. I'll just do a swatch for you right now. This shade looks like that on the finger. And then when it swatches, it actually shears out quite a bit because the pigment is mostly coming from the actual topper twinkles. These are a super refined shimmer. They're almost like a micro glitter. I hesitate to even use the word glitter because they're more like a twinkle. They do have a very ethereal quality and they're very, very lightweight. They're not like a glitter that you can feel the actual weight of each particle. They're truly like fairy dust. The one sort of metallic, satin metallic is this shade, which is really interesting. It's so pretty. It swatches actually really magically. And it's kind of different than you would expect just looking at it in the pan, but it has this beautiful like blue steel sort of look. Super smooth. Again, it's not like a super reflective metallic. It just has this like satin metallic sheen to it. And then since we're here, why don't I just swatch a matte for you so you can see how the mattes swatch out like live on the back of the hand. So you can see what I mean, where there's a high pigment load when you swatch it, but it is on the drier side. All right, let's get into these eye looks. I feel like I have to pin my hair back, even though it's giving volume today. It's just in my face right now. Okay, like I mentioned, all of my makeup is done. I have the Huda foundation, the Danessa Myricks concealer, my Makeup by Mario's Soft Sculpt serum, and then I have a little bit of blush on in Road Piggy, but just very, very light. I wanted to keep the skin mostly neutral, just so we could really focus on the eyes. And I do have my Urban Decay primer potion down. So let's get into this. Oh my gosh, I haven't done dramatic eye looks in a while, but I am excited. This matte, by the way, has a slight sheen in it, this like creamy matte. I am gonna see how it works to sort of like set down that eye primer. If it's too shimmery, I may have to save it for a highlight shade. Should we peel this off together? Satisfying. This is slightly pearly, but I feel like it's not like glittery. So I'm just lightly setting down the primer potion. I'm gonna do different looks on each eye. Something I am excited about is that the mid-tone mattes in this palette, specifically this shade and this shade, are very similar to shades I love in this palette. I think you can see how similar the tones are. There's like a taupey brown and then like a pinky taupe. Let's go into this shade. I'm just going to lightly go into my orbital socket, your crease, and create some contour. You'll notice for my eye shape, I'm going right above the fold. I feel like a lot of these taupey shades have a tendency to go muddy on my skin tone, and what I really love about the Mario mattes is that they are true to color. They don't go muddy, they don't turn orange, they don't do weird undertone things as you're blending them out. They really do stay true to the shade. And honestly, that's kind of difficult to do. I think about all of the matte eyeshadows of like the 90s and early 2000s that were sort of taupey gray. They all looked really blue on my eye, like they pulled really gray. So I appreciate the neutral undertone of these. Switching to a smaller brush, this is the Refer 13. I'm gonna go into this shade, keeping it closer right above the fold and a little bit more graphic. And you'll notice I'm keeping this area of the eyelid open. These shades are all blending into each other really nicely. I can say I do see the pearl from this cream shade. So next time I would probably set with translucent powder and not use that to set the eye all over, especially if you're doing a matte eye, because I am seeing just a little bit of sheen. So you can see I'm sort of starting to create a wing shape. And the matte eyeshadows are blending into each other really well, especially this shade and this shade, which is what I just used. Then I'm gonna take a shader brush. This is the Refer 02. Looks like that. I kind of want to keep the eyelid space bright. So I think I'm gonna go into this really clear, like sparkly, icy topper. And these toppers are not oily. They're a little bit on the drier side. So I do recommend tapping rather than blending it out, rather than dragging it across the eye. But you can see it has this almost icy blue topper quality. Oh, that's so pretty. I hope this comes across on camera. Taking it into my inner corner as well. Wow. Really pretty, super refined. Then I'm gonna take a shader brush, just a flat shader brush, the Refer 01. I'm gonna go back into that like porcelain pearly shade, and I'm just going to highlight the brow bone, kind of dragging that inner corner highlight up. I do have a little bit of fallout with the topper shade. It is a topper, so I would actually probably apply that over a wet primer next time. And then bringing this matte under the eyes. Going in with the dark gray matte, sort of closer to the lash line. Just added a little bit of liner, the Surratt liquid liner and mascara, the M Cosmetics one. I've really been loving this one. I feel like this look needed the finishing touches to really come together. And then I'm gonna go in with an angled brush into Should I do a little black? I feel like we need a little bit of black to ground this. This black eyeshadow is seriously black. It's very pigmented, which is not easy to do. I'm just gonna blend it into that gray eyeshadow that I put down earlier. Okay, that's one eye look done. It's not my favorite. I am more excited to play with the other shimmer shadows, but I did want to start off with a cool toned look just because I feel like that is kind of what sets this palette apart from some of the others that we're seeing right now. This is kind of like a Ice Queen smoky eye. Okay, for the next eye look, let's move into some of these like taupier shades. I am super excited about these three shimmers especially. I'm gonna take a Rephr 27. I'm gonna go into this sandy taupey shade and just generally start to lay down a base, kind of sculpting the eye. And I am gonna bring this sort of into the inner corner under my brow. It almost contours the nose. This is actually a really nice contour shade. And you'll notice this too is staying taupey without turning muddy. And then I'm gonna take this rich sort of chestnut brown. That one has a bit of kick up. And just gonna smoke out this outer corner. This is probably the warmest shade in the palette. It's not like it's warm by any means. It just has the warmest undertone of the bunch while still remaining neutral. Okay, so let's get into a shimmer. Which one should I do? I'm gonna go in with this shimmer. It's so pretty. It has like a champagne twinkle with a bronzier base tone. For this one, I am taking my finger and I'm just going to press it down. If I were going out, I would probably do this over a wet eyeshadow base, like add a little bit more primer, but I don't mind the fallout here. And yeah, this is like a taupey shade with a champagne shimmer. And I'm actually just going to really generously blend it out all over the eye area. Ooh, that's so pretty. I know the lights are really bright, but I hope they're picking up on the micro twinkle of all of these shades. Taking another Rephr 01, I'm just going to build that pigment, even taking it like up into the crease area over those deeper shades I laid down. This is the kind of shade that because it's sheer, it actually looks different depending on if you apply it over a deep shade or over a light shade. You can see the shades I laid down peek through. Adding back more brown, that depth and to blend. Then I'm gonna create a smoky wing using an angled brush again. I just wiped this off. I'm going into the brown. This one does have a bit of kick up. Just be aware, you want to tap off your brush. Switching to a Sonia G flat definer, actually, just because I want a little bit more width. And sort of connecting to the outer corner, or the lower corner. Okay, finished off this eye look with a little bit of eyeliner, a Kajal liner, the Victoria Beckham Beauty one. It's really tiny, that's why I couldn't find it. So I just smoked this out in the outer corner to emphasize that cat eye shape, and then the M Cosmetics mascara. I feel like this is a really beautiful, like minky, smoky eye. Definitely a little bit of drama with the wing. I honestly haven't created eye looks like these in a while, but it is fun to play with them again. And I feel like especially with holidays, like holiday parties, New Year's Eve, that's when I pull out these kinds of eye looks. So that is look number 2. Oh, and I would probably finish this off with just kind of a neutral lip. I've actually been loving this one. It's from Chantekai's Cheetah collection, I believe. How cute is that? It has a cheetah on it, and this is called Desert Lily. It's a lip veil. It's a little bit pink. That's okay. Maybe something a little bit beigeier. Okay, I'm gonna remove the eye makeup. I am gonna come back and we're gonna do a couple more eye looks. Pray for my sensitive eyes. All right, I'm back. I have more primer potion on, just added some concealer under the eyes. I do have a little bit of fallout on my cheeks, which is to be expected with a topper shade. I'm thinking for this next look, I'm gonna go for something a little bit more everyday, simple, neutral. Something I am noticing is that this palette kind of takes you in 2 directions. Like if you look at it straight on, it's almost like you can think of it as a 6-pan palette here that's a little bit more neutral, and then a 6-pan palette here that's a little bit more cool toned and icy. I'm gonna go back into this taupey shade, and this is what I would do for an everyday, like simple eye look, is I would just take a fluffy brush, blend that out, Again, I feel like these mattes are really buildable, which makes it good for, you know, beginners or just everyday eyeshadow use. Then I'm gonna go into this champagne, and this is the warmest of the topper shades. It has like a light gold, but a very neutral base, but it's about as gold as this eyeshadow gets, or as this palette gets. Still like an icy yellow gold. Gonna grab another shader brush, the Rephr 28, and just build that up. And then for a little bit of brightness, I'm gonna go into the creamy shade and just tap over the lid, sort of like melding those two shadows together. For me, like on a day-to-day basis, that would just be a really easy two shadow look. I do want to show you just an everyday look just because obviously you're not only going to use this palette for smoky eyes and dramatic looks. Speaking of smoky eyes, I'm going to go into this gunmetal shade for the next eye look, and I'm actually going to use my finger first. This one really doesn't have a lot of pickup, and then over the lid area, I'm just gonna build up that shade. It's so pretty. I love how this retains that blue undertone on the eye. It doesn't just look gray. It has that steely blue quality. Taking another Rephr 02, I'm gonna start to sort of sculpt this shape. I want it to be a little bit more graphic, I think. Actually, I'm gonna take a pencil brush, the Rephr 03. Very graphic, love the drama. And then I'm gonna go into the navy, this shade, finally, I haven't used this yet, with the flat definer. And I'm gonna add a little bit of blue and depth along the outer corner and like the lash line. Just layering it on top of that steely shade to really bring out the blue. This has so much pigmentation. It's really beautiful. I don't wear a lot of navy, and honestly, navy blue eyeshadows are really difficult to formulate well, but this is so smooth. Goes on super evenly. I'm gonna take a little Q-tip and just clean up the edges. So it's really sharp. You could clean it up with some concealer, but I'm just gonna leave that as is. Oh, I have my Makeup by Mario eyeshadow brush. I'm gonna take the pointy side. This is the E6 brush. Let's go into the icy white topper. It almost has like a white blue quality to it, keeping it really focused in the inner corner. I kind of like the contrast of like not having anything else around the eye, just having this dark wing and the bright inner corner. So you have sort of an everyday, super wearable look, and then something a little bit more dramatic. Another thing that you could do with this eye, I don't think I'm gonna do it now, but I do wanna try something. I wanna swatch the navy and then this icy white on top of it. So if I swatch the navy here, and then I swatch the topper, it creates this really beautiful, like murky, almost holographic looking shade. I just want to show you how transformative that white topper can be on top of any other shade. I think with these looks, you're gonna have to use your imagination about what it looks like with liner and a lot of mascara, maybe some lower lash line drama, just so I can show you one more look before my eyes get too sensitive. And if I put on mascara now and take it off again, my eyes will be sensitive. So let me reset and I'll be back. For the final look, I feel like I've used every single shade in this palette. So I'm just gonna create something kind of simple, but something that I would probably use as like a go-to look. I'm gonna go back in with this sort of like pinky taupe, just a fluffy brush. And this time I'm gonna even out both eyes. I'm so happy that there are more cool toned options on the market these days that are also melanated skin friendly, different skin tone friendly. I feel like at one point in time, cool toned options were all just like gray. And these have such interesting undertones. They're like taupey, but some are more like a clay taupe. Some of them are more sandy. They're just, I don't know, just more nuanced undertones here. And then I'm gonna take the sandy taupe and just use that to blend out the edges. Going into this minky topper shade. Actually, I'm gonna lay down a little bit of primer just to see if that sticks a little bit better. Just across the lids, not all over. Yeah, you definitely get a lot of pigment that way. Again, that's not like a step you need to do, but if you want a little more drama, perhaps a little more longevity, might be an option for you. I'm gonna take a little BK Beauty 210, just a little pencil brush, and go back into that brown and bring back some depth along the lash line. And then a little bit of this like goldy shade on the inner corner. So let me just finish off this look with some eyeliner, some mascara, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about my final thoughts. Okay, I'm back. I finished off the look. Here is the final eye look. I added some liner, a lot of mascara, and I also smoked out the lower lash line. So let's chat about my final thoughts about this palette. I really love the palette. I think it's the perfect sort of cool toned neutral winter palette if you're into smokier eye looks, if you're into these sort of like minky taupey shades. I will say, if you already have the neutrals palette, you probably only want to get this palette, the Moonlight palette, if you really, really want the shimmer shades, because the mattes are so very similar to this palette and so similar in terms of color story, that I really think this is only worth it if you really love these sort of twinkly topper shades, or you really love the color story so much that you're going to get a lot of use out of these toppers. Personally, the things I love about this palette, the color story, I love the buildability of the mattes. I love how you can start with a really natural look like I showed you, and you can build up to some really smoky drama like I have on now. My one critique of this palette, I would say, is that the topper shades, I mean, again, this is my first time trying this topper formula. The particles in the topper shades are truly like pixie dust. Like if you blow on it, they'll just like twinkle away because they have no weight to them. And that's what creates that beautiful ethereal eye look. It creates that gorgeous twinkle, especially in low light or under flash or something like that. But I do wish they had a little bit more binder in the formula. Not to the extent that it takes away from the thinness of the formula. I think that's actually what makes it so beautiful, is that they're not opaque. They're not these like metallic shades. They truly are like twinkly toppers. But I wish there were a little bit more binder, because obviously I created 5 different eye looks, but I do have quite a bit of fallout on my cheeks. I think these are applied best over a wet base or like a damp eye primer. You certainly can apply them over a dry eye, but you are risking a little bit of fallout. And I'm guessing by the end of the day, I'll have a bit more fallout as well, simply because the formula is on the drier, thinner side. For me, that's not really a deal breaker, because if I'm going for like a light dusting of something over the eyes during the day, I don't really mind a ton of fallout. To me, that's just, it comes with the territory of some eyeshadows. And if I'm going for more drama, I'll just apply it over a little bit of eye primer that's not been set with powder. But that might be something that bothers people if they are used to just working with these really like creamy, rich textures. Again, there's pros and cons to each side of the eyeshadow spectrum. Some people like, you know, rich, creamy textures. Some people like something thin and sheer and buildable. This is more on that side. That said, it doesn't lack in pigmentation. I mean, obviously, I'm talking more about texture here, but even the light textures still pack a punch in terms of pigment load. I think this is a really great gift if you have a makeup lover in your life, or if you are the makeup lover in your life and you love this color story. I really don't think you'll be disappointed. You can create so many different kinds of looks, from everyday to more dramatic. So that is it for me. I really hope you found this review helpful, and if you did, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around. Like I mentioned, I have a lot of content coming, including my Sephora recommendations for makeup and skincare for every category, really. Gift guides, Black Friday stuff, holiday guides, all of that good stuff. So obviously I would love for you to stick around, and I will see you then. Bye.